little while, and I've been working on some things in the lab, and I'm back today, and I'm going to be talking about something that has really been at the top of my list lately in terms of what I'm interested in, what I'm focusing on, and what I'm doing a lot for clients and myself and so forth, and that is mobile. So I've been capitalizing on mobile websites for quite a few years now. In fact, I've been getting a lot of business over the years just by converting regular sites into responsive sites, but really mobile is so much more than that now. I was kind of lazy on Google AMP when it first came out. Didn't really do that much with it since I don't really have like a blog, a news magazine type of site, or an e-commerce site. I never really felt the need to mess with it. But AMP is huge, and it's important for all types of sites, primarily because you're looking at those sub 1 second load times. So it's great to have a responsive site that looks beautiful and so forth, but if you're taking 5 to 10 seconds to load a page, that's just not going to work today. So you're much better just scaling back a bunch of the bullshit and serving a nice clean experience up that's super fast. So that's where AMP comes in. Now, another thing I've been super interested in lately is progressive web apps, which is basically like a hybrid between an app and a regular mobile website. So it's pretty cool. Gives you kind of the best of both worlds, and it also has some interaction with AMP pages. So, the thing about both of these is they're both newer technologies. AMP came out in 2016, and is still pretty new. And progressive web apps have been around for a while. However, they weren't even supported pretty much at all by iOS until this March. And some of the features still don't work on iOS, so you're still missing a big part of the mark there. But I think these are going to be getting huge. So we're going to be talking more about that later. But first thing is AMP. And there's a couple AMP plugins right now out there on the market. You'd think there'd be a lot, but there's really, honestly, if you search in the plugin repository like I did, you'd see there's only really about 3 or 4 total that come up. And then there's some like AMP add-ons for various existing plugins. Now, out of the ones I checked, there's pretty much only one big one, and that's called AMP for WP. So that's the one we're going to be messing with right now. Because I tried the one that came out with WordPress.com, and I didn't get any really positive result from it. I couldn't even tell that it was working. The AMP validator didn't work, nothing. So on the other hand, the AMP for WP, I set that up, and instantly you could see the AMP versions of my pages, and that one seemed fairly intuitive. So it's pretty much the only show in town right now, and if you're on WordPress and you're trying to run AMP, this is probably the plugin that you're going to be using. So funny thing about this is yesterday I actually put together a walkthrough this whole thing. So I never used this plugin before or anything, so I thought, well, I'll just make a video walking through and kind of showing how I configure it from a standpoint of having never seen it for the first time. The thing ended up being an hour long, and my camera stopped recording after about 30 minutes, so I missed like half of it. And it was pretty long anyway, so the benefit of that is like I said, went through it for an hour, configuring a bunch of different stuff, getting some AMP pages set up and customized the way I like and so forth, and learning a lot about the settings. And since then, I've also spent some additional time, so I probably got a good, at least 3 hours into just messing around with this plugin, different settings, testing it and so forth. And now I kind of have a better idea of how it works, what the different stuff does, where you can find how to do different things and so forth. So rather than kind of showing me bumbling through how to set this up, I'm actually going to go back, show you the settings that I've set up for my site, and then kind of explain why I set it up like that and what they do and how to find certain things. Overall, this is a paid plugin, but it has a free version. The free version is actually pretty full-featured, considering how much paid stuff there is for it. You can do a lot just with the free version, but there's definitely some stuff that you pretty much almost have to pay for to get, which would be like your form integration, contact form 7, gravity forms, etc. Got to pay to get that. They have some special caching stuff, which honestly I don't know that much about it, but I would assume you probably want that. You got to pay for that. And design, there's not a lot you can do on the overall design. Not that that really matters that much to me, but to some people I'm sure it will. And you pretty much have to pay if you want to do anything super cool with design. So definitely some paid stuff that is important on this plugin, but for now we're just going to be covering the free version. So I know this is kind of a long intro, but we're going to go jump into it right now. I'm going to kind of show you what I have set up, and then in further videos I'm going to show you more on some specific stuff like the page builder, and then we might get into some of the paid features as well, because this is a really full-featured plugin. And if you want to put AMP on your site or a client's site, you've got to understand how this works, and it's fairly complicated. So anyway, buckle up and let's get going. All right, thanks for sticking with me. So we are going to jump right into it. Here's my current website as it stands right now. I kind of showed you guys this a few videos ago. There's actually a bunch of this I'm going to change to kind of reflect the direction our company is going, particularly this top area. But this is what we've got, and you can see the mobile version of it currently is actually really fucked up. This is actually real. I don't get a super ton of traffic to my site, so I don't even care that much, other than paid traffic, which is going to landing pages and so forth. So it doesn't really bother me that much, but I mean, obviously that's unacceptable. There's just a bunch of shit that's not right on here, and there's so much, just so much stuff on it. It doesn't load the fastest. Matter of fact, let's just jump over to GT Metrics and run a report on it really quick so I can show you. And this is running on WP Engine right now, so it's got caching and all that kind of stuff enabled. So in terms of speed, there's probably not a ton we could do to optimize it further. I mean, a few things probably. And you could also, pay for a CDN or, do something like that if you wanted to, but, you're not going to get a huge difference in speed. So definitely just mobile layout is a huge concern right now for me because it does not look good. And one of the things I want to be selling is like higher end mobile customization services, because that's kind of where the money is, and that's what separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. So let's just see if we can jump in here and see exactly what kind of speed we're getting right now. Okay, so this is on WP Engine. It's a pretty shitty score. Fully loaded time 9.8 seconds. That's pretty weak. Total page size 6.64 megabytes. So by switching to AMP, we lose a bunch of layout, but as you can see, the layout's already shit on mobile anyway, so I'm actually, kind of killing myself, shooting myself in the foot by having my layout look like this on mobile to begin with, so that actually doesn't really matter, and I would much rather have the under 1 second load time for sure. So that is one of the reasons why we're going with AMP. And the second reason is because it has an interaction with PWAs, which is important, and that's really one of my strong areas that I've been focusing on. So anyway, let's dive right into it. So I've already got the plugin installed, but I'm just going to show you really quick under plugins. If you search, let's see, add new. Okay, if you search for Google AMP in here, this is the big one, AMP for WP. You see 100,000 plus active installations and pretty good review overall. So this is the one. This one actually is, I believe, by Automatic or WordPress, and you can see it's got a lot of active installations. I fucked with this thing for like 30 minutes to an hour. I could not get an AMP page to show. There's really not a lot of features in this plugin. It's just 2 pages, and one is for analytics, and the other one is just to check what kind of post types you want your stuff to show on. Beyond that, I couldn't really figure it out. So I'm usually pretty good with this stuff. If I couldn't figure out that fast, then it's probably gonna be a headache for a lot of people. So despite the fact that there's a lot of people that have this installed, this is definitely the one. And in my experience testing this, that's way better. And as you can see here, they got this one better AMP, but only 10,000 installations, 3.5 stars. Doesn't look that great. And the rest of these are kind of AMP add-ons. They're not actually AMP sites, or AMP plugins that kind of do everything for you. So, okay, so here's another one, but yeah, so you get the idea. So this is the one we're messing with. This is a paid plugin. We can go, let's see, AMP for WP.com is their site. And you can see they do have a free version, and kind of everything is pushing you towards a paid version, which you have to buy a membership for, and the minimum cost for that is $149 a year. Or if you're an agency looking to do this for a lot of people, you're gonna be looking at $500. So kind of varies there, and they do have some certain stuff where you just like almost have to pay for it to you can get a really basic implementation, but if you're trying to add a high-end setup for your client, you're probably going to need to take advantage of stuff like forms and advanced WooCommerce integration, stuff like that. It's all really important. So you're basically going to have to buy a membership for this thing, but we'll get more into that later. So I've got this active on my site right now because I went through the whole thing yesterday. I'm going to save you a lot of the bullshit with that because I already kind of have a better idea how it works. So this is kind of what it looks like. This is your dashboard here when you get it set up. Let me see if I can get... they have a wizard, which, let me just... man, I hate to deactivate it because I found a problem when uninstalling it. They have an option where you can save your data, but it didn't save all my data, especially stuff like my key for Google Fonts. I had to go regenerate a new one, which is kind of a pain, but I want to kind of show you this wizard. So let me just try and deactivate it and activate it again, because last time I did this, then it popped up the wizard. Okay, yep, so here's the installation wizard. Hopefully this still have my data in here. This is just a few quick questions. Kind of like Yoast, similar to how that one works. Okay, so you're gonna upload your logo. They give you the size 190 by 36. So I just went right to my site, copied this logo, pasted it into Photoshop, and then resized it. Now, the logo is actually one of the things that I never totally figured out on here. As you can see, it looks kind of shitty and grainy like that. I don't really understand why. If you, what I actually did was I ended up uploading one that's twice as big, and you know, a lot of times for Retina, that's what you want, is a logo that's like twice as big, so that it'll show the smaller version but have the pixels from the bigger version, so it can give you a really clear, crisp display on Retina. So that's what I tried to do here, but in testing it, which we'll get into more later, it was fucked up, didn't work. So for now, I've just been using this little Weaseler, and you'll see that no matter what there, I was squished like this into a square. So I don't really understand that either, because 190 by 36 is pretty far off from being a square. So that part I didn't really get. We'll get more into that later. It's not the worst, but it's a little bit grainy for me. Okay, so here's your pages where you want to enable AMP. Now, for some implementations, you might be fine with just running your mobile homepage, your responsive homepage, rather than switching to an AMP version, because it is pretty different. So, you know, if you're an e-commerce site, you might just want to be showing this on products. If you're a magazine, you might just want to be showing it on posts, categories, whatever. For me, I'm more interested in a fully comprehensive solution, so I want it everywhere. I don't want any of my site not running on AMP, because I'm particularly interested in the load times and stuff like that. So I choose to put this on everything. I'm not sure. Another good question is, or actually, you know what? I can pretty much tell here they don't support custom post types, because Divi has by default this projects post type. If they did out of the box support that, it would be right here. So right there, you're going to need to get the paid extension in order to get your projects if you care about that. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's nice that it kind of saves this data so you don't have to go through it again. Enter your Google Analytics tracking code. I just scraped mine right off my regular site. When AMP first came out, I don't think they allowed analytics, so it's nice that they make it super easy now. Then here you can select your design. Not a lot in terms of design options, and it's kind of janky how it works too, because these are both the same, even though once you get into the screen later, it's not like that, but I'm just going to leave it as is for now. We'll look at it more later. The designs are pretty limited in the default version, so, you know, you get what you pay for. Okay, so once you're done with that, you're all set, and then you can go in here and, you know, these settings, this is where you really get into the meat of it, and there is a lot you're going to need to mess around with. So first thing here, this page is basically all just verbiage. So, you know, you'll see your copyright in the footer, and then just different text for different places. So if you see something and you don't like the way it's worded, chances are this is where you're going to want to be changing it. For me, I don't care about any of this right now, and I didn't really make any changes to any of these. This is kind of something I would go back and mess with it more later on. So for now, we're just going to ignore those. And if I see something later when I'm going through the site that I want to change, I'll go back and change it. Okay, here is where the logo thing is. Now, this is one of the still open questions I have about this plugin. And I haven't totally figured it out yet, but this is where you can change around your logo. You can see it looked squished on the wizard, but it's actually not squished here. Again, they tell you 190 by 36, which is what I've got here, and it looks grainy as hell. Um, so yeah, it's weird. It might partially be because I'm already on a Retina screen. And you can do this resize thing here. So what I had done before was put the bigger one in, went to flexible width, and then resize it to 50%. So kind of the Retina treatment manually. And that worked pretty well on phones, but it didn't work at all on iPad, at least in my testing. So right now I'm not recommending that. So I still don't have a great solution for you on that one. We'll probably come back to it once I figure it out. AMP support, you probably already turned this on. Okay, custom post it. Oh, okay, so you can get it on projects there, but it's not from the wizard. So you can add your custom post types in here. You could create a custom AMP front page if you wanted to. Otherwise, as we'll get into later, they'll give you an editor in the homepage where you can kind of build your alternate homepage in there. That worked fine for me, so I didn't bother with this one. And then otherwise, I do have AMP support on everything. These two, I think, are both experimental and might be partially redundant, so I just don't even bother with these right now. And I'm not entirely 100% sure how they work, so you can get the correct effect without needing to mess with those right now, so I just don't even bother. Page builder, nothing actually in here. Just kind of showing you how their page builder works, which we'll get into more later. Advertisements. Okay, this is pretty cool if you want to use ads. You got your different ad blocks. You put your ad code in there. Choose whether it's responsive, and they have some different slots and whatnot. I don't really know what these do, and so I'm not going to speak on those much more. For SEO, since I'm using Yoast, and you probably should be too, I just use the SEO integration for Yoast, turn all these on. Pretty straightforward there, but I'm sure you can do other stuff if you wanted to, and then there's stuff you can add to your header if you need to. I would assume that's for like schema or something like that. Performance, so definitely I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to minify everything. And then this is where they're kind of advertising that you need to get your cache, pay for the cache feature to load even faster. Probably something you're going to want to do. That's my email notifications are a little bit loud today. Okay. Google. Okay, so analytics. Here's where you turn your analytics on. I'm probably going to be switching mine to Tag Manager, but for now I'm just leaving it as is. And then you've also got your Facebook Pixel and so forth, so you can get all that stuff in there, and a bunch of other different stuff depending on what you use. Structured data. I don't know that much about schema, sadly. It's an area I need to learn more about. So I think that these are probably right posts set up as blog posts. Depending on your type of site, you might set them up as an article, a recipe, or whatever. You can figure that out. And then pages set up as a web page. Seems like it makes sense. Structured data logo, I just use my same logo. I'm not totally, default post image. I don't think you want to use your logo there. You probably want to use or create an image. So I'm going to go back and create an image for that later on. I just haven't messed with it yet. Notice bar and GDP compliance. I'm not totally sure if you even need this in the US or not, so I haven't been using it. Maybe that's something I need to look into a little bit more too, but it's nice to know that they have it, because I know there's a lot of people that have been using these lately. Push notifications. So, okay, this is pretty nice. It integrates with OneSignal, which is a third party. I haven't tested this yet, but I'm going to definitely look more into that, and if relevant, I'll make a separate video on that. Here's your form support, which is weird because they say you need a add-on, but they also give you this, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to test that further too. Not really sure. Comments. It took me a while to figure this out, but you need to turn off display on pages unless you want comments on your pages. It was on mine by default, and I actually got to go back through here and remove it. So that's instant articles. I don't really know anything about that. Individual AMP page bulk edit. It's pretty straightforward. Take out categories you don't want to show in AMP. I pretty much have a lot of categories on here. This is an over 10-year-old blog, believe it or not, and it's changed a lot over the years. But I don't think you would normally need anything with that. Advanced settings, there's a bunch of stuff in here that you need to pay attention to. Mobile redirection. So this is going to always redirect mobile users to your AMP page when they're on a mobile device. So it'll auto detect and then redirect to the AMP page rather than showing you the normal, desktop or responsive page. This is an important one, really important. At least as far as I'm concerned, I don't want my mobile visitors seeing the regular page. No matter what, I always want them seeing the AMP page. So I have this one on, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want it. Change internal links to AMP. This goes hand in hand with this. Just going to add that when you use the AMP page, you actually have a whole separate URL. So your home page will be like yoursite.com/AMP or yoursite.com/contact/AMP. So it's actually two separate URLs. So you want to change your internal links to AMP so you're not linking from your AMP page back to a non-AMP page and so forth. Endpoint to AMP, I didn't see a need for this in mine. It worked fine without it. If you have issues with above, then you might want to try that. I don't need any of these things here as far as I can tell. Let's see. Auto add AMP and menu URL, same thing. If you're using your same menu on your AMP pages as your desktop, you're going to want to turn this feature on so it'll use the AMP URLs instead of linking back to the desktop URLs. This is actually one that I didn't figure out right away when I did my walkthrough yesterday, and then today I kind of figured it out after playing around with it more, that you need to turn this on or otherwise create a separate menu for AMP pages, either way. So for example, on mine, my contact URL and my menu actually just links to a form and a footer. But on AMP, that's not going to work. I actually am going to need to link to a contact page, most likely, so I'm going to have to use a separate menu. So, depending on how your menus work, you might have some issues like that to come up as well. I didn't really see any need for these yet, but you might. Retina images, this one's been tough to test. I've just turned it on for now, because I would assume you would want this, but I might have to test it a little bit more to make sure. And then plug in update notification bar. Not totally sure what that is either, but I turned it on, so I can test it more. Some of these other ones I'm not totally sure. Delete data on uninstall. I had this off before, but some of my data still got deleted when I uninstalled it, because I did uninstall this once already. So just be wary of that, I guess. Advanced settings, e-commerce, here's where you get your WooCommerce support, and then you're going to have to add an additional extension for that. And then here's translation stuff, and you're not going to need to worry about this unless you're using a translation plugin or whatever. So for me, I don't use that. If you go in here to design, this is where there's a bunch more stuff that you got to deal with. So here's kind of where you select your themes. As you can see, they actually look different here than they did when I showed you in the wizard. I thought I was using, well, I guess we'll just leave it on this one for now. They only give you just these four. They're pretty basic, and they want you to buy some of these other demos. Basically, oh yeah, here they are down here. Yeah, so they got some nice looking demos in here. This might make it easier for you depending on if one of these really appeals to you and it fits with the kind of niche you're working on. So for me, I'll just leave it on there. Global. This is where a bunch of my shit got removed that I already added. So you can set your color scheme for your links and stuff. I customized that. It's weird that I added this in before too, and it's removed again. It removed my key last time too, but my font is Montserrat. Make sure we save that again. That's weird that it removed it because I just was in here like a half hour ago messing around with that. Let's save it again just to be sure. So that's where you can kind of mess around with your Google fonts. Header, you can see they give you a couple different designs. They even give you a call to action here, which I don't have one I can use right now. Otherwise, I probably would implement that. I'm okay with it this way for now, but I think I might I might switch it. Actually, I might switch it to that. I think that's a little bit more closer to what I'm looking for. Menu type. Only give you the one option here. Alternative menu will give you the secondary menu. And I had this on before and I didn't like it, but it's pretty much looks kind of like a traditional menu under your header that goes horizontal. I don't really see any need for it, but I guess you could have it depending on, whatever your unique needs are. Non-amp link in the header, I don't think you really need that. I can't imagine a lot of people actually click the link to go to a non-amp page unless they're really having trouble finding what they want, so it's pretty much up to you just to make sure that your amp pages are sufficient and people will be able to find what they want. This is where you turn off that search bar, definitely not something I need. And then this is where you would turn on call now if you wanted that. I definitely do not want that, but for some businesses that might be good. And then sticky headers right there. Advanced header design. I'm not exactly sure honestly how any of this works, so I'm not gonna mess with it. But it looks like you can change your menu background and so forth in there, so I'm okay with it the way it is right now. That's all something I can go back and mess with later on, I'd rather get this stuff done and then go back and make changes, like, change around colors on the menu and stuff later, because that's kind of insignificant. It's more something for me than for anybody else. Just because I want it to look good, but for it to function correctly, it's fine if it looks like that, as far as I'm concerned, if it's going to be under 1 second page load time. Homepage. As far as I've seen, there's not really any need for any of these settings because I'm just building a totally custom homepage anyway, so these aren't really relevant. Single page, this is kind of nice. I like the one column layout with the featured image on top. I got some other stuff like drop cap and stuff like that. Again, I did all these settings the other day and it didn't really make any difference. It seems like they reverted back, so I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with that, but kind of up to you how you like these. I don't really care to show date or author stuff like that or anything. See, that should be off. Don't really need that. Sticky social icons are okay. Drop caps okay. So you can kind of change around how the gallery looks and so forth if you have those. Content sneak peek. I looked at this yesterday. Let's see. Shit, it doesn't say it now. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that off for now. Okay, footer. Don't give you any options for that. Looks like you can use widgets there if you choose. Menu, don't really need that. You can put the link to non-amp in the footer for shits. Actually, I'm not even gonna put mine, honestly, because since my mobile pages aren't optimized anyway, I don't really want people looking at those because they're not meant to be looked at in that state. So. Then advanced footer design, you can change the colors and font sizes and so forth there. I don't see a lot of need to mess with that. Footer, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty irrelevant, so we'll keep it simple. Page, again, I don't really use featured image on pages. Meta information, I don't really see any need for any of this. I think this means like WordPress meta information, so like author, publish date, so forth. Not SEO meta information, so I'm just leaving all that off. I don't use social icons on my pages either, so I'll leave all that off. For social sharing, and this is mostly on posts as far as I can tell, and you can toggle which ones you want to show, and then kind of change around here where you want it to appear. So that's that. Date and misc. And that's pretty much all there is in there. Then you can kind of see here is where all the advanced features are. You can buy these all individually, but most of them are pretty expensive. You're probably just going to want to get the full membership, which is for one site $149 a year, but you do get a lot for it. So I'll probably get one just to test it around, but I'm sure there's a lot of valuable stuff in there anyway. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so I actually had to stop my camera again so it wouldn't automatically shut off. This one's ended up nearly as long as the other one. There's just so much in this and so much to it that one video really can't cover it, and even in just kind of a basic overview, I can still talk forever on this stuff, and as you can kind of see, there's a ton of it that I still don't even know exactly what it does myself, and it's going to take probably like literally hours of research to figure everything out. But it's important. So, all this stuff is valuable to spend time looking at. Now, okay, so we kind of went through all the things in the settings, and once you do that, I'm going to kind of show you what you get. So let me decline that. Scam likely call. You guys get a lot of scam likely calls. If you do, leave a comment below. I feel about the last year, I've been getting so many scam likely calls. It's crazy, and I never had even seen it before last year, so kind of weird. Anyway, here's what my site looks like, and here is what it looks like if you add AMP to the URL. So this is what they give you. The logo still looks like shit because I haven't figured that part out. There's the menu. So that's that. And by default, they'll give you this homepage layout that looks like a blog, which for me doesn't work because obviously my main focus on my site is to advertise our agency, and the blog is kind of more of a after thing, so it's not that important. And oddly, it's like some of the shit still, like I don't want the author on there or the post date still showing on there. So you're gonna have to spend some time figuring out stuff like that when you're working on it. But this is what you get by default. If you go into the menu, now these should Jesus, that's weird. These should, that doesn't work either. Okay, let's try this one. Blog. Okay, so there's the blog page is kind of fucked up too. Doesn't look very good. I'm going to show you a regular page here. Let me get to my WordPress conversions page. Let's see how that one works. Okay, so this is kind of what the pages look like. This is a WordPress page. Just strip a bunch of stuff out of here. I don't even know what that thing is. That's crazy. Okay. I don't know what the hell that add thing is. Let's go to do a different one here. Support. So this is, I'm just showing you what this kind of looks like in its raw form. The fuck is that? Add. Oh, maybe I did something with one of those ad slots or something. That's probably what I did. See, these settings, you can really screw it up if you, yep. Okay, so we'll turn that off. Okay. So, in its raw form, the pages look really shitty and obviously need a ton of work. But that's okay, because the good thing about this tool is they actually have some really powerful stuff to help you with that. And it's basically like a whole separate page builder. So, I'm going to show you, actually, mistakenly built this on top of my old homepage, which I still have in here published, which I shouldn't. That's not what you want to be doing. You can see I'm pretty lazy with my own site. That's the kind of stuff I really got to try to work better on. Now let's see. Okay, so if you scroll down, this is my main page is set up in Divi here, and I'll show you that. I'll even show you what it looks like just to show you what it does. This used to be my old home page. It's a really shitty page that I just kind of set up quickly. It looks awful. That's what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to show you that AMP version, which this is ultimately could become the homepage of my site on mobile. So this is it looks messed up because it's large right now, but on mobile it actually looks a little bit better. You can see it scrolls down pretty good, and this is totally different from the desktop version, and that's because of this tool down here below all this stuff. This is the AMP page builder. So I'm going to get more into this later because this honestly could have a whole tutorial on it by itself, and this layout looks like shit right now because I just spent a few minutes on it, so I need to spend a lot more time and do this on every single page on my site, which I only have like 5-6 pages. Most sites you probably don't have that many pages that you need to go crazy on with the page builder, but basically you need to rebuild all the pages on your site using this page builder which is, you know, kind of a rudimentary version of Visual Composer Divi. So if you've ever worked with any other page builders, this is going to be similar. And they actually have these pre-built layouts too. So of course you have to pay for these, but these will give you these layouts, and then you can kind of tune them to however you want, sort of like a Divi layout. You know, they import from the Divi builder. But you can see, okay, a heading here is equivalent to this. There's a tagline that, and you can choose your heading type. You can go in more on font size, color, and so forth. Your columns, this is where I set the background image somewhere. Oh, yep, here it is down here. So there's that. Somewhere in here you can set it to be parallax. Save that. This might make it parallax now. And you can mess with all your, yeah, there's like caching and stuff too, which I'll discuss in a minute. But you can see there's other things, call to action. That's what I've got down here, which I just use the default one. But you can see that's a pretty nice call to action. So really kind of similar to WP Bakery, Visual Composer, Divi, Page Builder, you know, any of those kind of things. You only got 1 or 2 columns, so you're a little bit limited, but obviously you're not going to want to go stupid on columns for a mobile device anyway. I usually pretty much like to keep things 1 column or, you know, maybe 2, but you can see this kind of scales weird anyway. So that's that. We're going to get more into that later. This is a custom amp editor. I don't understand exactly what this is for, but I think this is something you would use if you're not using this or something like that. Haven't figured it out yet. But this is a powerful tool, and this is pretty much the main thing you're going to probably want to be focusing on. Let's see, show amp for current page yet. So I think these are on by default. You would want to turn these off, of course, if you didn't want to show the amp for the current page. So that's that. Now let's go to browser testing, and I'm just going to show you how these look on some certain devices. So let's open up. This is Browser Stack, kind of a necessary evil. I've been using this for years, and you basically have to have it if you want to be able to really test well for mobile devices. And just in testing on here, I found a lot of interesting stuff. You know, some different inconsistencies that I wasn't really expecting with this plugin. So just goes to show why it's so important to be testing this stuff out. So right here, you can see how the stuff loads up. If we go, let's see. Let's try to pull up the front page we were just looking at. That should be the URL. Actually, it should auto redirect now as well. But you can test that by just clicking your menu links. Okay, so there we've got that. Okay, so this is how it looks on a Google Nexus Android device. It's okay. It doesn't exactly match how it looks on the regular desktop version we just looked at, but you can see the parallax doesn't work. That's one of the things I found with this is the testing is such a bitch to test this, especially because I'm on WP Engine, which is, you know, normally good, but in this case the caching really makes it a pain in the ass, because then you have to deal with that. So a lot of times you have to purge the cache, then you got to change to a different device on here, and to kind of get a refreshed view of it. So if you want to change anything, you got to change it, purge the cache, check it on a different device, go back and try to check it on a similar device to what you were looking at before. Okay, so here you can see this is an iPad Air 2, I believe they said. And obviously you got some huge inconsistencies here. The logo looks stupid, it's super small, it's not correct. The menu's on the wrong side. I noticed also when I had the logo in different positions, it was all fucked up too. It was like hanging over this part here. Search bar was like down there. Bunch of different weird problems. You can see the 2 columns actually does work here, where it doesn't on a phone, so that's interesting, but that's okay. I'll just take a look at some other pages here. So one of the biggest things I've ran into is, even though I have this tool, it's kind of slow going to change anything. The blog layout is just awful. So you can see, I'm not even totally sure how you do this yet. You basically have to go through this with a fine tooth comb, and then you gotta try to go back and figure out where to change all this stuff, and it's really an ordeal. Let's see. Let's just go back to the page I was on. And we'll pull it up in a couple more devices just so you can see. That's one of the biggest issues I've found with this plugin is that there's just like a lot of inconsistency from one device to another, and debugging it doesn't seem to be super easy. So, okay, that is the iPad Air. Let's check it on the Nexus 7, which I believe is, I'm an iOS user, so I'm not totally familiar with all these Android devices, but I believe this is either a tablet or a phone tablet hybrid, so a little bit larger screen. We'll see what it looks like on that. Okay, so on this one, you've got the logo over here, but it's still small and awkwardly placed. And then here you've got the menu, so that part's at least working, and the 2 columns looks good, all that stuff looks good. Let's jump to iPhone 6s, which is a newer device. So it's really useful to have this browser stack tool. And honestly, if you were trying to set this up for yourself or a client and you don't have this, I have no idea how you're going to even be able to test this without browser stack. Here you see, problem we've got here is there's left and right play, which there absolutely should not be, and that's probably because of this text right here, but as you can see, the text doesn't fit on the screen, and then there's this gap here, which I don't understand what that is either, so that's messed up. And then the 2 columns, something I'd be interested to find out is, when do these columns break? Haven't been able to figure that out yet. We'll get into that more later. And then let's just go to Samsung Galaxy. So you can see we've basically had fairly different displays and issues on every single device we've tested it on so far. So if you're looking for a consistent experience, you can see that debugging this is going to take a hell of a long time to do, although it's not impossible. Let's see. So this one, the word's cut off, but it doesn't give you any left and right play. I guess that's a little bit better. Otherwise, this looks okay. And here the logo is a little bit better positioned, although still smaller than I would like to see. I would like that to fill up a little more space. Or honestly, I wouldn't even mind having it be just this part and cut the words off and, just have it be square if that was going to look better. So that's something that I haven't seen you can do easily within the plugin. So I just kind of wanted to show you how the debugging process works for this. I already spent a couple hours on this today, just kind of going through some different stuff, and I haven't even started building my actual pages yet. So you can imagine once you start building all these pages with Page Builder, how much work it's going to be to go through here and kind of test these out and make sure you get a consistent result on every device. And because I only got a couple modules in here and they're really basic, so you start adding a lot of modules or making long pages, it's going to take a while for you to debug all this. So powerful tool, but a lot of messing around you're going to need to do. That is pretty much what I've got for you right now. We covered a lot of bases. This is a huge comprehensive plugin. I didn't even get into any of the extensions or like PWAs or anything like that yet. As you can see for myself, I've only got this crude page set up. My goal for within the next day or two is to basically get all my pages, which again is like 5 pages, but get all those built out, completely AMP ready. They don't, as far as I'm concerned, they don't need to look perfectly uniform in every browser, but I do want them to not have anything wrong with them. No, I don't want a word to be hanging off the edge. There should be no left and right play on a mobile device. Nothing like that. So it's going to take me a while to build out all those pages and test them out in cross-browser compatibility on different mobile devices. But the good thing about it is they give you most of the tools here to do that. So outside of like the logo, that's one of the ones I'm still not sure how to do. I'm also not sure. Another thing is like I don't know how they choose when to do the redirection. So when you turn on that option to auto redirect to AMP pages, It doesn't really say whether they're doing that based on screen size or the actual device that somebody's using. So, I don't know if somebody's on like a smaller laptop, like a netbook or a Chromebook or something like that. Is it possible that if their screen's small enough, it might show the AMP version there where you might not want it? Or alternatively, for like some bigger tablets, like an iPad Pro, maybe it won't show the AMP version, or like, maybe there's situations where you don't want to show the AMP version on big tablets or bigger laptops, but you do want to show it on small tablets, smaller laptops. Right now I don't have a lot of clarity on how that works, so that's going to be something to dig more into. Overall, I think it works pretty well for, those are all kind of, picky, ticky-tack issues, so they're not super important to know right away. You can get a pretty good head start on this without having to do any of that. So, that's it for this one. Next video, once I finish building all these pages out, I'm gonna walk back through and kind of show you how I did, and hopefully some of these outstanding questions will be answered by then. And then from there, we're gonna take a look at what some of these extensions do, and particularly PWAs and how this interacts with PWAs. So this stuff is all really big right now, super important, and I hope you guys will follow along with me as we kind of continue diving into this. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.